How's it going, everybody? Draft season is finally here. In this video, I'm going to be ranking and grading every single first round pick from the 2024 NFL Draft. Of course, I'm recording this right after the draft happened at around 2 a.m. Got to keep the grind up. But of course, we had the draft stream tonight, day one stream. It was awesome. You guys really showed out with the support. Had a really fun time. Shout out to my co-hosts, Obes. Shout out to Pat. And also shout out to Jordan. Shout out to all you guys. Thank you so much for making the panel so fun tonight. And as well as I'll have some funny moments and clips be posted again today. But first off, we have to talk about the Michael Penix situation. So, oh my God, what a crazy pick this was. So I thought Penix was going to go in the first round, but I didn't know exactly where. I thought it would probably be in the later rounds. The team trades up for him. But oh my God, this was arguably the worst place or spot that Penix could have gone because, and I'm giving this a D. This is my last ranking, of course. He was 32nd on my board, so I did have him going in the first in my 32 picks. But again, Michael Penix Jr. is going to turn 23 in May. Crazy injury history, a shoulder, multiple shoulders, multiple ACLs, 6-year senior. He had a really good year in Washington last year, of course, led the team to the national championship, had 3,600 passing yards, 30 passing touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 68% completion percentage, 106 passer rating allowed, has good pocket movement, has really good zip on his ball, and then he has really good processing in the pocket as well. But the age and the injuries are really big factors that I really looked at with him. He also sometimes will ignore the check down, and really doesn't like to scramble and really escape the pocket and run and use his legs. And then for the Falcons, you signed Kirk Cousins to a 4-year, $180 million deal, and your next opt out is 2026. What? And you spent a premium pick with number 8 on this move. This was just bonkers. This was the worst move of the night. Arguably one of the worst draft picks I've ever seen. Not in terms of player, in terms of your situation and how much money you allocated to another older quarterback. I just did not get this move, and I don't think anybody really did. I did forget to mention, but this will be a 2-part series because I'm going to yap a lot. So obviously I'll give all these prospects time and all the situations and talk about a lot of stuff. So if you guys want to watch after this video, go full watch this video. After this video, go ahead and watch the part 2, which it will be through my 16th through 1. This is 32 through 17. But getting on to my 31st ranked player, I've got Darius Robinson. Look, I unfortunately was not very high on Darius Robinson this year. I had him 51st on my big board, on my top 50. He was my edge 5, of course. Darius Robinson is very interesting because he's a really big edge rusher. He played the 5 tech at Missouri, and what that is basically outside the tackle, but he kind of more feels and measures like and kind of feels like an interior defensive lineman at the next level. Of course, he's 6'5", 285 pounds. Can definitely play the 4-eye, which is a 2-gap role. I think for the Cardinals, they moved to a 4-3 after Jonathan Gannon came in. But again, Darius Robinson, my issue with him is I think he heavily relies on his bull rush a lot, and his bag of pass rush moves really does fall off, especially later in games. He's really just trying to hit. He's really powerful, but he's really just trying to run through guys a lot, it feels like. Very good run defender, though. 81.4 run defense grade. Was productive, had 8.5 sacks and 42 pressures. A 17% pass rush win rate. It just felt like at this point, edge for the Cardinals, I don't think was a bigger need than cornerback, and I thought there were better cornerbacks on the board, of course. And then if you want to look at him like an interior defensive lineman, Jerzon Newton, I do not know how Jerzon Newton fell out of the first round, but he should have been the pick anyways. And again, athletically, he has a bit of a slow get off of the line of scrimmage. I'm just unfortunately not as high on this one as others. I have Xavier Worthy coming in as my 30th best ranked first round grade here. For the Chiefs, it kind of feels like they just don't really care about the first round anymore. I mean, they drafted Filike and Duki Uzoma last year. Like, they're kind of just like, ugh. So Xavier Worthy, man, it's just a weird pick. So they have an issue with smaller receivers who have consistent drops. And Xavier Worthy is another one of those players. I think he had a 10% drop rate at Texas this year. Listen, the 40 time, whatever speaks for itself. Listen, he ran a 4.21. Very good. Again, 5'11", 165 pounds. The pluses with Xavier Worthy is, one, he was an All-American punt returner. Two, he can take the top off of defenses, and he has really good speed. But then again, he had a really weird kind of role at Texas where he had a lot of screens. He didn't run a ton of just straight line go routes. And his tree is a little bit more limited than some of the other guys that were really on the board now. Like Quinyon Mitchell, I thought he was a better receiver at Texas. Latham McCarthy, I thought it was a better receiver and a better fit for the Chiefs. Their average depth of target has gone down every single year, and I think is at now like 6.5. And Xavier Worthy is cool, flashy tools player. He's got the speed, but schematically, you're just replacing Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore with another type of that receiver. I think they should have really went in a different direction with receiver. And even that, I had Worthy ranked 44th on my board, and I had him going in the second. I thought he should have been a shoo-in for the second round. But I guess if they really want an explosive threat, then sure, they got that with Xavier Worthy. I was really surprised, honestly, that the Dolphins were the ones to take Chop Robinson. I think he should have went to the Cardinals at 27. I think he could have went even later. But at 21, I think with the thought that the Dolphins were looking at when drafting Chop Robinson was, we lost Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb, both season-ending injuries, so we got to address the edge position now. Of course, it's a very important position, edge rusher, and you want to invest a lot of value into it. But when you already drafted Jalen Phillips in the first, you traded a first-round pick for Bradley Chubb, and now you pick another first-round pick. It's, okay, we're allocating a lot of resources into this one position, and we have some other needs. We're looking at cornerback. We're looking at interior offensive line. And I really think they should have drafted Jackson Powers Johnson right here at 21, or Graham Barton. Barton could have been an option, but I mean, interior defensive line was also an issue. Or not an issue, but you lose Christian Wilkins. Also, you lost Robert Hunt. Two huge free agents in two big positions for that team. And then Chop Robinson, I'm a bit lower on him than I think that a lot of people are. ESPN has him ranked 20th. I have him within the 30s. Of course, you can see it over here. His main attribute is his explosiveness and get off the line. Very, very, very quick first step and good bend around the edge. And that's mainly how he wins most of his reps. It's a quick first step, dips around the edge, and then quickly disrupts the quarterback. Other than that, I don't see him go to a consistent bag of pass rush moves. He doesn't have a ton of power. He does have the athleticism. Of course, ran a 4.48 and had a really good split time as well. 92% or 92 pass rush grade by PFF is good, but again, 26 pressures, and he only played 303 snaps in 10 games in 2023, which proves to me, that's around 30 a game, that he's a two-down edge rusher. And that really made sense because he wasn't always in on obvious rundowns. He feels like a situational pass rusher at the NFL level, and 21 is early, especially when you had different needs. And as well for Chop Robinson, the edge class was a bit weird for me. I think that it was those top three guys, and then it would kind of fall off. But again, I think he can get some good sack numbers at the NFL level. It's just, was this the right position, just in my opinion. Moving on to my 28th best player, I have Tyler Guyton coming in at a C+. Guyton, again, the Cowboys are another team that they just kind of like, they're whatever. I just do not understand a lot of the times how they go into their draft process, and especially in the first round. Like last year, they drafted Mozzie Smith, who was supposed to be a specialized run defender. Obviously, they overdrafted him heavily, and he didn't have the best year. But now for Tyler Guyton, I do understand the position that you wanted. You definitely need tackle. You lost Tyron Smith. You really don't have a consistent right tackle option. So you went ahead and got the next really best right tackle on the board, which was Tyler Guyton. But the thing about Tyler Guyton for me that a bit scares me for the Cowboys is he's an undeniably raw prospect, in my opinion. When I was watching him at the Senior Bowl, when I was watching some Oklahoma, his hand technique is just like off. it's not really consistent. He's big, he's 6'7", has a really long wingspan, so he kind of likes to just kind of wrap guys and envelop guys. It's a bit weird. He is raw. Had a 72 pass blocking grade, had a 60 run blocking grade. Not the greatest run blocker. Sometimes can be inconsistent with that, but again, he's really tall, so it's kind of hard to utilize that leverage against stockier guys. But again, zero sacks allowed, only 12 pressures allowed, and a 9.70 relative athletic score. Bit of an interesting pick from the Cowboys. I think he's really raw, but again, for the Cowboys, it was more of a position of need, but I am going to give it a C+. Starting off my Bs, or starting off, I guess, with my B- here, my first B-, it's going to be a bit of a hot take, I think. I'm going to have Graham Barton as my my 27th player, going to come in a B- here. This is more or less kind of a knock on who was there that I thought should have been the pick instead of who actually was. Listen, I do like Graham Barton. He has really good athleticism. He was a primary tackle at Duke, but can play guard. He played center, and obviously he's being drafted as a traditional center. He's tall, he's athletic. He has good pass blocking technique as well, good run blocker, good strength, good use of hands, especially at the point of attack. 78 run blocking grade, 2 sacks allowed, 11 pressures. He had a really good 2022, but this year he did get hurt for a bit of a time. So it's just the thing about Barton is Jackson Powers-Johnson is one of my favorite players in this draft, and I think he was a really good fit probably for the Buccaneers. I think maybe they chose the more athletic option so that he could just have a bit more movement. But again, you move from Ryan Jensen to Jackson Powers-Johnson, who is literally my comp for Ryan Jensen, so you could have just had a seamless transition there. But again, Graham Barton, I do like him. I just think that it was one early. I had him in my 49th. I had him as a late second round grade. Again, best interior offensive lineman, but it's kind of by default because he wasn't a true interior offensive lineman. He played left tackle the last 3 years. Jackson Powers-Johnson had to be the pick there. Going over the second quarterback here that was drafted. Of course, this was the last quarterback drafted. Bo Nix. I'm going to come in as a B- here. The thing about Bo Nix is I understand why the Broncos selected him this early. I think a trade down option could have been there. Maybe the Raiders would have picked Bo Nix, but I don't think it was as likely. But the Broncos, they needed a day one starter. I mean, they traded for Zach Wilson, which is not a great sign. But again, for Bo Nix, the things that I like about him are he has really good accuracy. I mean, from looking at him in Auburn, his accuracy was in the 50s. Now, at Oregon, when he transferred, it's 70. He had a 77.4% accuracy, which obviously led the FBS. He had 45 touchdowns to only, I have my numbers wrong. 45 touchdowns to only 3 interceptions. Was second in passer rating. He was second in passing yards with 4,500. The production's really there. When I was watching Oregon, it looked like the protection was pretty much always on point. He had really good weapons as well and had a really good scheme. And as well as the Pac-12 was kind of, the defense was non-existent for a lot of the year. And again, for Bo Nix, I think his arm talent is good, especially within the intermediate and short areas. But as a deep passer, you're not going to offer that much. He's kind of more of a consistent dink and dunk guy. You look at his average depth of target, it was 6.5 yards last year. But again, this is kind of it's a bit of a lukewarm draft pick. It's a quarterback that I had in the 30s, or actually in the 40s, really, that is drafted 12th overall. It's just kind of a lukewarm pick. I think he can be solid, but I think he was at the peak of his career at Oregon. I do really like Pearsall as a player, but when I found this pick out, or when I was watching this pick, I couldn't really help but put it in the B- range. What this draft means to me is that Ayuk or Debo is gone. And it probably is going to be Ayuk because he's asking for a contract. He requested a trade, all this stuff on Instagram or whatever on social media. Ricky Pearsall just kind of screams to me that they are ready to either move on or keep Ayuk for 1 year and then let him walk or trade him. But again, they could have probably gotten a first for Ayuk. But again, you draft Ricky Pearsall, who I do like. I do like Pearsall. 4'4" guy, great athleticism, surprisingly good route running, really good hands. Look at that catch. Obviously, probably the best catch all year. Good short area quickness and good flexibility and good ankle flexibility that allows him to run routes. Good frame, strong player. I do like Ricky Pearsall. It just, you're hypothetically replacing Ayuk with Pearsall, and that is just an obvious downgrade. But if we're looking at the pick on face value, it's a solid pick. It's a good late first round pick, maybe a bit of an overdraft, but a solid B minus selection here. Oh, but here comes the controversial take, blah blah blah. I really thought that I would have had JJ McCarthy a lot lower than I actually did. I have him currently at 24, gave him a B minus. I thought I would have given McCarthy if the Vikings traded up to 5, like a C. When I was watching his film, I'm just a bit lower on JJ McCarthy. I think he can make a lot of consistent mistakes, especially when like throwing behind receivers, lacking touch over the middle of the field, consistently throwing above guys, getting a little erratic and just kind of making just some mistakes, some common mistakes that quarterbacks at the NFL level aren't really supposed to make. But again, I think that there is potential with McCarthy, and that's why I'm not completely killing this pick. As well as for the Vikings, you only had to move up 1, and you gave the Jets, you let them move up in the 4th, and you got a 5th back. Solid move. And as well as you kept the Broncos and you kept the Raiders away, and you didn't have to move up in the top 5 and give away that second first round pick, which I thought was really good. I thought that the Vikings were, they were maybe stone hands or diamond hands, but again, good that they were able to stay in that 10-11 range for JJ McCarthy. It's just I'm just really not super big on McCarthy. Again, I made a video on him. They got like 1,500 views. Again, go watch that video if you're interested on more of my thoughts of JJ McCarthy, but I do have this pick coming in at a B minus. Starting off with the Bs, I have Xavier Legette coming in as my 23rd ranked player here. Let's be honest, were the Bills going to take Xavier Legette with this pick? Did the Panthers have to trade up? Probably not, but they went ahead and did it anyways. Whenever I did my second and third round mock drafts, it was always Xavier Legette to the Panthers because, like, that's the obvious pick. The Panthers were in contact with Legette since the start of the draft season. He's from South Carolina, or he's a Southern guy. You can hear it in his accent. Went to South Carolina, so basically you're building a hometown or homegrown really talent here with Legette, as well as great athletic traits. He ran a 4.39. He's really built too. 221 pounds listed here. Very wide catch radius. Really, really strong hands, can kind of just muscle the ball out of cornerbacks, as well as can fight through press, and also is good after the catch as well. Had 1,255 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns this year, 9.92 relative athletic score. That was 3rd among the wide receiver class. He is a bit older at 23, but again, this is a solid pick for the Panthers. Like, they didn't need to trade up, but again, I think this was a good end of the first round pick, so I am going to give it a B. In my final mock draft, I did have Jordan Morgan going to the Green Bay Packers, and that was, of course, right, as well as this was more of a lukewarm kind of pick. It felt like it was not only was it a position of need with left tackle, you lose David Bakhtiari, but again, this was the best left tackle on the board, and the Packers just decided to pull the trigger and take the best tackle at their best player at their biggest need. The thing about Morgan that I don't quite love is, one, he has some shorter arms, stockier arms, and that can affect him, I think, in run blocking mostly. He had a 77 run blocking grade. But again, strong hands, good pass blocking technique, but he better not let people into his chest because he can't lose reps that way. But again, 87.3 pass blocking grade, 2 sacks allowed, 14 pressures, but a good athlete. He can move pretty well. It's just kind of a lukewarm pick for me. Solid, good position of need, and good pass blocker as well. So I'm going to give this just a very solid B and have it ranked 22. Again, another pick coming in here at a B. I do have Brian Thomas Jr. This was a very weird kind of pick because you signed Gabe Davis in the offseason for 3 years, $39 million. And you're essentially going to use Brian Thomas Jr. and Gabe Davis in the same kind of way. The thing about Brian Thomas Jr. is 60 or more percent of his routes were go routes, hitches, comebacks, fades, pretty much a straight line or straight down. That's Brian Thomas Jr.'s best attribute, is he can either run past people or jump higher than them, or do something after the catch. Brian Thomas Jr., great player. I had him ranked 18th on my board. I'm pretty sure if I have that wrong, it's right over here. But again, he led the FBS in receiving touchdowns with 17. He was just a deep threat. Also ran in the 4.3s at the combine. Had 1,177 yards, 9.97 relative athletic score. Brian Thomas Jr. is really good athlete. Probably is going to be a really good deep threat. It's just you already kind of got that style of receiver with Gabe Davis, and you could have gotten a different style of receiver here with Brian Thomas Jr. I know that it was probably the best receiver on the board consensus-wise. I did like Adonai Mitchell. I thought Adonai Mitchell could very easily be the wide receiver one on that team and be an excellent route runner and be kind of a change of pace receiver. But now you're kind of getting the same guy as a guy you signed for 3 years, $39 million. It was just a bit of a weird thought process with the Jaguars going into this pick. But what I did like is that they were able to trade down, got some value from the Vikings, which I'll mention later, their compensation. But you move down for a good player, and I think that Brian Thomas Jr. will have production, especially within the end zone with Trevor Lawrence. Of course, the tackle that I'm lower on than the rest of the big tackles in this class is the one that the Jets go with. I think pretty obviously the Jets wanted to go with Rome Odunze. They wanted to trade up with the Giants. I think they might have called the Falcons, but they wanted Rome Odunze. He went to the Bears at 9, so we went ahead and got the second best option, which is really offensive tackle. Tackle has been a thorn in the Jets side for a very, very long time, and you want to go ahead and address that. So for them, the best tackle on the board was Olu Fashanu, so they went ahead and made that selection. For me, Olu Fashanu, he was my 6th best tackle. When I was watching, especially the Ohio State game, when I was watching the Ohio State game versus JT Tuimoloau, it felt like the power was overwhelming him a lot. Especially when JT was just punching him really in the chest, creating a ton of knockback. And I think that Olu Fashanu can struggle setting the edge, especially even against smaller edge rushers. That kind of scares me a bit when a player lacks a bit of functional power. But again, this guy's young. He's 21 years old, as well as his pass pro technique is very, very good. Very good hand, very good use of hands. And his lower body is really good too, as well as very unique flexibility and agility. Like he can just kind of bend his body backwards and not lose reps that way, as well as he allows 0 sacks, 10 pressures, and is a good athlete, 9.49 relative athletic score, and he was an All-American this year. So I think for the Jets, if you didn't get Rome Odunze, this was either your second or third best option. I did want Brock Bowers, get more weapons for Rodgers as possible, but again, you can move Olu to either side. Tyron Smith is always injury prone, and you only have him for a 1-year deal. And you have Morgan Moses on the right side, but you don't have a backup for him. So go ahead and address a guy who you can develop. You don't need to start him year 1, but I think that Olu Fashanu is either he really is going to make it or he really is not going to work out. This is the earliest pick that will be featured in the part 1 of this. I'm going to have J.C. Latham again at a B. Going to have him ranked 19th here. So J.C. Latham, for the Titans, I think they were dead set on tackle because their offensive line seemed like the biggest need, especially on the right side. So I was either thinking of Joe Alt, Talisa Fuaga, or of course Latham, and Latham ended up going here. The things that I really like about Latham are he is massive. He's 6'6", 342 pounds, long wingspan again. But the thing about him is he is really powerful. He just creates a ton of knockback, and he is really strong. He has a really strong punch and good run blocker. It just creates a ton of push, and he has a lot of power, clearly. But the weaknesses about Latham, and is why I wouldn't have taken him within the top 10, is his lateral quickness and his foot movement can be a bit sluggish, and I think that's why he can struggle against speed rushers, especially against the outside with edge rushers with a lot of bend and quickness. He can lose reps that way, as well as his pass pro is solid, but it's not elite. But again, he's huge, good athlete as well, 9.55 relative athletic score. But again, he also has a lot of penalties. He had 18 penalties in the last 1,700 snaps, which is around a penalty every 100 snaps. So yeah, those are the things about Latham. But again, I think the Titans were dead set on tackle anyways, so they addressed one of their bigger needs. I think they could have traded back, though. I'm definitely prepared for some of you to not like this take, but I do have Dallas Turner coming in at a B, and I have him ranked 18th here. I have him 15th on my board, of course, so this was hypothetically a good pick as well. You drafted him at 17. I had him 15 on my board, 6.45 prospect grade. The thing about Turner is, for me, I thought he was, on film, but inconsistent, flat out inconsistent. It felt like he would make a really big impact on one play and then go silent for the next 10. I don't know if I'm wrong about that, but you could look at his pressure numbers. I think he only had two games over 10 pressures, and a lot of his big plays, the reason why he had 10 sacks and 55 pressures was because he had really big play and then silent. Quick bend off the edge or converting speed to power and just beating a guy and creating havoc for the quarterback, and then it was just silent. 19.6 pass rush win rate, 10 sacks, 55 pressures, 89 pass rush grade. I think he's a good pass rusher. He's really athletic too. Ran a 4.46, has a good quick first step, can convert speed to power, solid bend off the edge as well. He doesn't really have a deep bag of pass rush, or he doesn't really have a bag of pass rush moves that he consistently likes to go to. And if he's not winning through speed or power or bend, he's not really winning at all. And so that's why I had Dallas Turner as my third edge rusher in this class, as well as the run defense and the power. I think he does have power, but he needs a runway. If he's just on the ground as a 4-3 defensive end, hands in the dirt, he's not going to generate as much power. And especially as a run defender, he's going to get moved. Especially double teams can hurt him a lot. But he's a solid run defender. But 4.2 run stop rate is solid, but is not solid. But the Vikings also, the major implication for this pick is you traded basically 2 seconds for the Texans for them to move down, and then to move up to the Jaguars, you moved another third and a fourth. So that's a 2, 3, 4, and then you swapped to 5. That's a ton of value to move up for an edge rusher. And I know it's in a very important position, but you're putting a lot of chips into Dallas Turner. A first, second, third, and fourth. That's a lot of value to be giving to basically one player. So I have to look at all those factors, as well as I'm a bit lower on Turner. So that is why I have it as a B. As well as I'm prepared, some of you aren't going to like this take either. And this will be the last player that I'll show in this one. Of course, you guys definitely got to go watch part 2 to show the better grades, of course. But I don't know. I really had a negative gut feeling to this Quinyon Mitchell, Quinyon Mitchell drafting. I really do like Quinyon Mitchell. I had him 14th on my board. He's my second best cornerback in this class. Really, really high athletic traits. Had like a 9.8 relative athletic score. Ran a 4.33 at the combine. Had a ton of pass breakups. I think he was third in pass breakups in the FBS this year. Good ball skills. Good anticipatory skills. But when you look at the film at Toledo, you see that he is almost 90%. He's off coverage, and it's like 10 to 12 yards off coverage every single time. He didn't have to I think his technique is just flat out raw. He's a raw prospect, especially coming from not only Toledo, but again, he doesn't have a ton of consistent footwork, and route recognition is, I think, one of his weaknesses, really. I think that he does need some time. Luckily that you have Darius Slay and Bradbury. Again, they kind of got toast last year, but you do have some wiggle room and some patience you can have with Mitchell. So there is that factor. I just do not know if Mitchell was if the Eagles were the right team for Mitchell. Do I trust Fangio, or who is their new defensive coordinator, to develop him? Sure. Does he fit their system as a cover 4 cornerback who is going to play primarily in zone and who can just kind of jump routes or jump the ball? Sure. I just do not know if Philly is I just don't know how to particularly explain it. I just do not know if Philly was the right pick for his development. But again, he has a ton of potential, and I did like him. I have him at 14th. But that is going to do it for part 1 of ranking and grading every first round selection. Make sure you guys go watch part 2, and I'll see you guys in the next video.